I told y'all to leave pods alone. What'd I tell you? We'll talk about the Warriors taking care of business against Utah last night in a minute, but let's talk about all these crazy trade rumors that are swirling around, starting with Jimmy Butler. I had made mention last week, hey, it's getting pretty toxic in Miami. I imagine the asking price for Jimmy is going to lower here moving forward. Would that cause the Warriors to re-engage with the Heat in trade talks? And reportedly, it has. Now, leverage, who knows? Maybe the Warriors aren't. My fingers are crossed they are not considering Jimmy Butler. And I'll tell you why. Because I keep hearing people say, well, if you could get Jimmy on the low, then yeah, I'm down, right? There's no such thing as Jimmy on the low, y'all. He is a $50 million per season player, right? And so that means you've got to either send out Wiggins or Draymond just to make the salaries match. If you're doing that, along with some sort of draft capital, you're going to re-sign Jimmy to somewhere between 40 and 50 million moving forward at 35 years old. My point is, though, most of all, the gap between Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler has closed. This isn't Jimmy Butler of 2 or 3 years ago. He's 35 years old. He's rarely available. And this is, why do you think Miami is doing this? Now, I have no doubt Miami probably did do him dirty. They probably did give him the Harden treatment like Morey did in Philadelphia. Like, oh yeah, we're going to extend you. Actually, no, right? Because they see the writing on the wall that he's on the back end of his career. Meanwhile, Wiggins, I get we all have our Andrew Wiggins trauma over the last couple seasons. If we're talking about this season, he's been our most consistent player. In the last month, he's putting his head down and getting to the line. That's what's so encouraging. He's having these nights like last night where he's 5 of 17, 4 of 15, and you look and he has 18 or 19 points because he has 9 or 10 from the foul line. He's gotten back to being the defender we need him to be. And so that gap between Jimmy and Wiggins, I don't think it's great enough to throw Wiggins in this trade for an aging Jimmy Butler who you know has the potential to crash out wherever he's at. Listen, man, after all the holiday spending, the New Year's can feel like a hangover for your credit. And that's where Kickoff can help a lot of people. It's a smart, legit credit hack. They're not going to run your credit. There's no hidden fees, no interest. What's important to understand, this is not a credit line to spend on. It's a credit line to build your credit. Plans start at $5 a month. You set it to auto pay and you build your credit while you sleep. If your score is under 600, it could jump like 28 points in the first month. Now, credit is so important. Whether you're trying to establish it as a young adult or you're trying to rebuild it, what you come to find is whenever there's a big purchase, whenever you're trying to rent something, the better credit you have, the more options you typically have, and the better deals you usually get, right? And so again, Kickoff is a way to start to build that with that good payment history. So shake off your credit hangover and look forward to brighter credit with Kickoff. Get your first month for just $1 at getkickoff.com/alchemy. That's 80% off at Kickoff without the C, KIKOFF.com/alchemy. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/alchemy to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers. First month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Points start based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0. Changes for Kickoff users starting under 600 who made the first on-time payment between January 21st and March 24. Payment and credit activity outside Kickoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. So that's how I feel about that. More interesting, De'Aaron Fox. Another name that I had brought up in last week's trade video, saying, hey, that's great that the Kings have righted the ship and they're headed towards a playoff run here maybe, but I don't think that scenario is going to change. And sure enough, Rich Paul's like, hey, you might want to start shopping him now. Reportedly, his ideal destination is San Antonio, but Clutch Sports and Rich Paul have also said, hey, other teams, we're open. It depends on where he goes. Y'all are immediately thinking the Curry brand signature athlete, De'Aaron Fox. He and Steph has had kind of a mentorship with him since he's been in the league. He doesn't have to move across the country, right? I know it doesn't make a ton of sense on paper adding another small guard, but it's one of these things where don't complicate it. If you added De'Aaron Fox to the Warriors roster, you know how much pressure it would take off Steph, right? He would be the perfect bridge. I won't say the perfect, but he would be a legit bridge from these final years of Steph into the future, right? And for that very reason, Maybe Sacramento doesn't even deal with the Warriors, right? You still have to make the call. You still have to see if you can get involved in a De'Aaron Fox deal. That's how I feel. Jimmy Butler, no, nah, I'm not with it. Now, the other news, we just played the Bulls the other night, and Quentin Post outplayed Vucevic, right? It was in a vacuum. It's one game, fine. But last night, Quentin Post looked like a rookie. And you have to expect that. There's going to be games where he looks like a rookie. And the latest report is the Bulls want a first-round pick for Vucevic, and the Warriors are like, no, we ain't doing that, right? How I feel about that one is send them the pick. Now, protect the pick. Lottery protect the pick. Heavily protect the pick. But if you can send them a heavily protected first-round pick in 27 or 28, like a couple of years down the road, I think it would be worth it to bring in Vucevic, who not only, I think we all see now with the Quentin Post trial run, how effective a stretch big can be. And then, as I made mention before, a direct mentor for Quentin Post moving forward. Like, hey, you can model your game exactly like mine. And so if they could heavily protect the pick, I don't have a problem giving up a first further out into the future. But just say no to Jimmy. Now, maybe the Warriors get involved in some sort of 3-team, 4-team trade where they're just a part of the deal and they make something happen. But to commit to Jimmy Butler moving forward while giving up Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green, that's a no-go for me. Let's talk about last night. Pods. We didn't just get rookie year Pods last night. We got Santa Clara Pods last night. That was one of the best games he's played in the NBA. And you saw it from, was that his third game back? But even from the first game, you could just see a confidence and a recharged Podziemski. So I wasn't surprised that he had a big one last night. And, you know, people had laughed. I think it was it this summer? Maybe it was his rookie year, but he was like, yeah, I'm like a mini Draymond. Like, I got to be like Draymond. And people were like, okay, kid, like slow down, right? But honestly, they do share some similar character traits in as a basketball player out there, right? They're both going to complain at the refs every time. No, but there's just a certain energy and alertness from both he and Draymond that I think raises everyone else out on the floor, right? And then you saw him push the pace and get us into early offense was key. And then you add Gee out there. I really like the combination of Pods and Gee out there with their energy. They're going to win the 50-50 balls. They're going to push the pace. They're going to make quick decisions. And then you're also seeing him adjust to the league where he got hit for that Euro step last night. Well, I don't know. Guy, I don't know. That's so subjective. You can call that every time if you want. You don't have to call it. But you're seeing him know where plan A is and plan B when he gets downhill. He's no longer kind of getting stuck once he gets into the paint. You see the confidence from three. And so just in time, right? Just in time. And that was I'm giving y'all a hard time for the Pods haters because it just wasn't a big enough time to write him off. Now you could say the same thing to me about Moses Moody because all of a sudden Mo is looking like a player, right? But the reality is we'd seen 3 years of Moses struggle, opportunities or not. So it was a bigger time. But Pods, and now you combine that with Olympic Schroeder, right? Schroeder, and he's one of these guys where you saw him and Sexton get into a kind of like a game within the game early on in this one. And he's a guy that's not going to back down from anybody. And if a guy gets in his ear and irritates him, it's going to elevate his game. That's just who he is. You know who reminds me of, and this is, I don't want to compare the two because Baron was a better player, but Baron Davis, when he was with the Warriors, if there was a matchup where a guy started to talk to him and irritated him, as a Warrior fan, you were like, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. Like, we're going to get good BD tonight, right? And Schroeder is the same way, but Schroeder's motor is higher night to night anyway. And so he's hitting the mid-ranger. He's getting much more confident where his shots are going to come from, and he's even pushing and playing with a little more pace. So really impressed with how he's adapting here. And then he goes down and looks like he blows his knee out. And you're like, well, that was fun while it lasted, right? Like, just as he was getting comfortable, probably won't see him in a Warriors uniform. He's going to hit free agency this summer, right? And then he comes back out and finishes the game. And I have it in today's breakdown. I'll put the link in the description. You see this happen in football more often, but what happened was, I believe, him rolling the ankle saved the knee. He's coming down awkward on that left leg, And the fact that the ankle gave way and bent weird, it really took some of the torque off that knee where it could have been catastrophic. So, Warriors finally get some luck. You finally get some injury luck, right? Because I think you could even sense when he got carried to the locker room, like the guys were like, really? Like, all right now, like we can't catch a break. They catch a break. And they finish off this Utah Jazz team who, Colin Sexton, boy, he's got to be top 5 annoying guys to play in the league just because of his motor, his intensity. And he just plays so strong, right? Because listen, these NBA athletes, a lot of these guys are super strong. Do you play strong? Kuminga's a guy who plays strong. Colin Sexton, pound for pound, plays as strong as anyone in the league. I don't know who's going to be making calls on him, but he'd be an interesting third guard to add. What else do we got? Let's talk a little bit about Quentin Post here, right? His first game where he really kind of looked like a rookie and you saw some limitations, particularly finishing and getting up at the basket. And it's kind of to be expected, right? He wouldn't have been the 55th pick or whatever he was if he could jump out of the gym too and move like some of these other centers. But what I'm seeing from Quentin is he needs a runway to elevate. If he's flat-footed, like his no-step vert is like not good, right? And listen, he's 7 foot, he's smart. It's not the end of the world at that size, but I think you saw that when he blew a couple of bunnies, right? And there was times where he didn't want to go up. Rebounding wise, like it's going to be positional, much like Looney, right? He can't just, on the other end of the spectrum, Trace, Kuminga, they can jump in a phone booth, right? They're no step verts close to their one step, right? And so that physical attribute he doesn't have, and he's going to have to adjust to that and get a little more crafty maybe around the basket. He's not, at 7 foot college and high school, he's used to just being able to float it up and be nice and easy. And you saw Eubanks roof him a couple times. But ultimately, in a game where he did show his inexperience in being a rookie, he still gives you 10 and 5 in 16 minutes, right? So, he's going to have to take his lumps. But all in all, I thought it was a fun performance. And I'm having fun watching these young guys compete as hard as they are. Schroeder leading the way as the vet out there. We've got a bunch of demons out there. We got 4 players who play on demon time, right? GP2, Schroeder, Pods, and Gee. 9 out of 10 nights, they're going to play harder than the guy they're matched up with. And so that bodes well. I know we got to figure out the scoring issues, the turnover issues. But I think, I'm having fun with it. Now, Steph will come back tonight against the Thunder, Draymond next week, and then Kuminga, they're hitting us with the 2 more weeks. Now, I'm going to say it just because I think it. Because I made the prediction like he'd be back sooner rather than later. The Warriors, first off, the Warriors are ultra conservative as a training staff. So we know that to be true. It's always 2 more weeks. And then is there a little bit of Kuminga in a contract year being like, hey, I need it to be all the way healed. I'm not messing around. So I can't really blame him for that. But I thought 4 or 5 weeks he'd be back. And now we're looking more at like 6 to 8. Past the deadline, we'll see. But Thunder's going to be tough. I think if they can just keep it competitive, I'll be happy. The Phoenix game Friday is the one I'm circling where it's like, hey, if you could get that one, I think that you could really feel good. It'd be a good morale win as well as battling them in the seedings. But let me know where y'all stand with Butler, Fox, and Vucevic. Miles Turner's name is being thrown out there. I think the Warriors are definitely going to do something. With some of these expiring deals, it's like use it or lose it type of situation. I'm out on Jimmy. It's going to cost too much. And again, I don't think he's that much better than current day Andrew Wiggins. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.